You're listening to Community Forum on KCCC 930 AM, sponsored by Eddy County, honoring God, country, and family, thriving with industry since 1889.
Thank you for listening to Community Forum. My name's Johnny Chandler. I'm the owner of KCCC 930 AM and the host of Community Forum. And with me today, for the first time ever, is Jody Knox. Jody Knox is the CEO of Lakeview Christian Home. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate that. I'm glad that you came on. Now, we've had Jeannie Watson on a couple of times. I know she's associated with Lakeview Christian Home, but it's the first time that you've been on. So I would think it's safe to say that I have climbed the ladder within Lakeview Christian Home, and I'm now officially have the CEO in front of me.
That's correct.
Right. So, Jody, give us a little bit of a history about you. I don't know you all that well. I've seen you sometimes and out and about, but I don't know you quite that well. So, were you born in Carlsbad? Were you raised here? How did you end up at Lakeview Christian Home? Give us your background.
Okay. Well, I'm actually a Texan by birth. I'm born in Pampa, Texas, but we moved here right before I turned 4, so I consider Carlsbad my lifelong home.
Okay. All right.
And grew up here, went to school here, and when I was 17, graduated high school. Our local, a man from our local church found me and asked me to come to work for Lakeview, and at that time, that wasn't my goal to go work at the nursing home, but I chose to do that, and 48 years later, I'm still here and loving every minute of it.
So when you were asked to work at Lakeview Christian Home, because we were talking before we started recording, you were attending Southeast, or actually NMSU Carlsbad at that time, right?
Not yet. I had just graduated high school. I was planning to go to Lubbock Christian in Lubbock, Texas, and for personal reasons decided to not do that at that time and started work at Lakeview.
Right. Okay. So you started at Lakeview as a
Receptionist. 17-year-old receptionist.
17-year-old receptionist. How was it?
Well, I fell in love with the residents immediately. They would come to see me to get money out of their trust fund and funny stories all the time, and I just fell in love with them. And my background by nature is accounting. I love accounting, and so at that time I was doing a lot of bookkeeping. By the time I turned 20, they made me the office manager.
Wow.
And so was doing that at comptroller and all the financial stuff for the whole organization.
All without technically a degree at all in that field, right?
That's right. At that time, I did start going to school at New Mexico State after hours. So I'd go to school every day from 5 to 9. And all of my classes were accounting and business, that type of thing.
Now, that was when NMSU, or now Southeast New Mexico College, which we're teamed up with, we record at the college all the time. That was before they were in the new building.
That's correct. They were at the location of the high school at that time.
Okay, at the high school.
And then I did come to this building when it opened as well, and later transferred to College of the Southwest and was working on my degree. But in 1984, the administrator asked me to go take the administrator's test. It's a national nursing home license.
Okay. And
for every year of college you hadn't finished, you could work 4 years. Well, I had been at Lakeview 8 years, so I took the national test, and passed. And sure enough, right afterwards, someone left, and they asked me to step up and be administrator. So at 25 years old, I became administrator over the Northgate facility, and have done that for many, many years. And then in 1993, I think I was about 32 or so, the CEO left, and I was asked to step up and take that role. So I dually did CEO and administrator for a long time. And then again, after COVID hit, I stepped back into doing a dual role, and I just can't stay away from that part of healthcare. I love the nursing side of it. I love the residents and spending time with them. So it's been a big blessing, even though it's a big job.
So you've been CEO for 30 years.
I guess I have.
Right. And I had to count on my fingers under the table.
I have 31
93
years.
to 03, 03 to 2013, 2013 to 2023. So it's actually like 31 years.
Yeah,
I just think that speaks volumes for an organization. You can come in at the ground level at 17, which you were probably obviously extremely young, full of energy. I imagine the residents just absolutely loved your personality at that time.
Well, I loved them, and I remember one day a resident asking me why I wasn't in school, and he thought I was 14 and I was 28. So, they're good for my ego. They're a lot of fun. But I will tell you, as a 25-year-old administrator, that some of the family members didn't appreciate me. The wives would say, go to my boss and say, she's too young. And so I had to win them over. I had to learn how to really communicate with families and make them feel comfortable that I didn't know what I was doing.
I don't know if I'm going to cross the line or not, but I'm going to say this anyways. Were you some potentially older males' clients' favorite administrator?
They give me a hard time currently, so that's pretty fun. You know, they'll whistle at me down the hallway or something, and of course you have to enjoy that, you know.
So you told us quite a bit about your history with Lakeview Christian Home. I mean, you literally you've made an entire career out of this place, right? And I mean, you're obviously going to stay there until you're ready to retire at this point.
They all tease me and say they're just going to roll me into a bed when the time comes.
I mean, I know that's not funny, but it's kind of funny.
But it is.
But it's also true, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? You're already lining yourself up, I imagine, to be a part of what you spent so much time
That's right.
creating. That makes a lot of sense. So let's get in. We got into your history. Let's get into Lakeview Christian Home's history. What year did we start? And what was the inspiration behind it, et cetera?
Sure. Well, in 1960, there was a county health physician named Dr. Owen Puckett. And he would go around to visit people in their homes because back then doctors made house calls. And he realized that a lot of the people he took care of were seniors. And if they didn't have family, when they needed more services or more care or someone to help them, there just wasn't anyone. He worshiped at Fox and Lake Church of Christ, which had a lot of local business people. Mm-hmm. And he went to them and said, help me start a place for seniors. One of them, Johnny Osborne, owned Lakeview Courts, which was on the banks of the Pecos River. It was an old hotel motel.
That's right by North Canal and Orchard.
That's right. And it had been quite a fancy place at one time in its history, but it was no longer in operation. So he offered to sell them Lakeview on a note. And so they literally pulled money out of their pockets and started Lakeview. Many of them, you know, physically worked to turn it into what we now would term assisted living.
Right.
And then in 1966, 6 years later, they applied for federal loan from the federal government called Hilburton Funds to build the nursing home. And so that eventually became 120 beds of nursing care. And you paid that loan back by giving free care. So Lakeview's always been about helping those in need. And that was the mission, and that was part of the criteria that Dr. Puckett wanted, to serve those who, you know, regardless if they had the ability to pay.
So insurance is unnecessary.
Well,
welcomed, I'm sure.
We need, you know, most of our patients are either on Medicaid,
right,
or if they're skilled nursing, which is rehabilitation, short-term, Medicare pays for that. We expect to be paid by those who can.
Right.
But if a person has no other options, we never turn them away. We make sure that they have the care that they need.
What's the total bed capacity of Lakeview Christian Home? Now, I guess maybe I should quantify that question because you guys have so many different options for residents, from some independent assisted living to in-home care to then, you know, final care, hospice care, stuff like that. So I guess I don't know. I guess when I'm talking about 120 beds, or you talk about 120 beds in that one facility, you're talking that's assisted living facility?
Well, it had 120 nursing home beds, and it had about 60 assisted living.
Okay.
Then in 1977, the hospital came and built, the HCA built down the street at the current location. And so what was the old hospital, Northgate Memorial, became vacant. And the city forefathers came to Lakeview and said, would you take this over and add another nursing home? And back then, we needed more nursing homes. There wasn't such a thing as home care. And so people didn't get to stay at home. So the board told them no. And after they came back and knocked on the door a few more times, they agreed to take that over. That's been a challenge. That was built in the 50s, and it was built as a hospital. Didn't have a lot of bathrooms and things the way we would want care today.
Probably a lot of asbestos in that building, too.
Yes.
At one point.
And so we've spent the last 47 years trying to update it, change it, tearing pieces and parts down, adding on. And so that's been a challenge. In 2005, we closed the one on the river because we were starting to do a whole lot more home care. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when you talk about services, you just mentioned that we have a lot of different services. So we had at one time back in mid-'80s, 2-3 family members that came and said, you know, I don't need nursing care, but I don't want to go home at night. My spouse is here. Why don't you have something for people like this? So we had 7 acres just east of Lakeview on the river, and we built 48 independent living cottages. So that got us into a whole nother segment. And then we added assisted living at Northgate, and then we added more village houses at Northgate. So we just grew. And Then later in 2000, we had over 200 people on our independent living waiting list.
Wow,
and so
just on the waiting list.
Just on the waiting list. And so we bought 20 acres from the city and opened Riverbend and started that. And that's a beautiful campus, a lot more expensive homes, very nice. But then people came to us and they said, could you send a nurse out? I have a problem. I need a nurse. Well, nursing home nurses are very busy and they can't just leave their duties and their patients. So we just thought, okay, we need to start a home care. Our patients need us, and so our residents need us. So we started a home health care in 1996. And then in 2000, we had a couple from a local hospice come to us and say, we want a contract to take care of hospice patients in your facility. Well, Lakeview started by taking care of dying people in 1960. Why do we need a contract? Yeah. Well, it was a Medicare benefit and an extra layer of services that really helped dying patients, and we realized how important it was. So we started our own hospice. Both home health and hospice took us not only to our campus, but allowed us to care for people in their homes. So not only do we provide those services to people who live in our nursing home, our assisted living, our independent living, but we go to their house wherever it is in the community. And so we also then, when we expanded to home health and hospice, we started taking care of all ages. Right. So we've taken care of preemie babies, we've taken care of dying children of cancer, all ages. And so it's just, we have grown. Everything we've done is because someone presented us with a need and we stepped up and filled that need. And to me, that's the neat part of who Lakeview is. They see a need, and then they fill that role.
All right. So it didn't have anything to do with the idea of, there's a need, but it wasn't if we start this, considering Medicaid, considering Medicare, this is an opportunity for us to also get to make a business out of it. That was never the idea.
It was
Making
not
a business
the idea.
was never the idea. It was the caring for people. So I've harked back before 1950, whatever, right? You said, and Dr. Puckett. And what did people do when you were elderly and you needed assistance? What did you do, especially in Carlsbad?
Well, if they didn't have family, they were really just in a bad place. And that's why it was so heavy on his heart, because he saw that. And if they didn't have close friends or neighbors that helped, there just wasn't anything. And so that's why it was so important for Dr. Puckett to do that. And so what...
do we have a memorial for this gentleman anywhere?
Well, we do. So, I would lay in bed at night trying to think of how do we change this old hospital. We can't tear down an old hospital turned into a nursing home and rebuild. What would we do with all the patients living there? We had 112 beds at that facility. And we had added on activity center and chapel in 1993. We had added on wings, but it was still the whole core of the building. And so how do we do that? And people liked the small, more home-like environment. So in 2014, we built Heaton House, and it's attached to Northgate, through a doorway, but it's completely self-contained as far as 18 rooms with a living area, a kitchen dining area. All of our core services came from the main nursing home, like the commercial kitchen, the commercial washer and dryer. They could go out the back door and down the hall to the activity center and go play bingo, go to the chapel, go to the beauty shop, anything they needed, but they didn't have to leave that small area. And it's more home-like. So we did that in 2014, and we named that after John Heaton.
That was
Representative John Heaton.
Yeah.
He, when he was in Santa Fe, he had started with Lakeview in 1960. He was our pharmacist, and so we had a long history. And when he became state representative, he was the most knowledgeable about Medicaid and nursing home regulations. And so he was a huge blessing to us through his representation in Santa Fe. So we named that after him. And so our goal was to have 3 more of those. And so our second one, we opened 2 years ago, and we named it after Dr. Owen Puckett.
Oh,
Very fitting.
Great.
And it's 24 beds, and it's a beautiful facility, state of the art, and we're very proud of it. And we broke ground last year on our 3rd one, and it's going to be called Runkle Residence. Our longest-serving board president was Jim Runkle. Many people in Carlsbad knew him. He owned Runkle Furniture, long-term businessman here, and he passed away a few years ago, and so we fittingly are naming that after him. And we will have one more, and then we will be completed. So we couldn't do that without generous donations.
Are there some individuals or companies that we should be recognizing?
Well, Heaton House, the whole community stepped up and helped. And we had some foundations, maybe foundation, but many business people stepped up and helped with that. With Puckett Place. Clay and Linda Wilson helped fund that whole project. And then we've had Peyton Yates out of Artesia, the Yates Foundation, and Chandler Foundation are both helping with Runkle. So we are very blessed being not-for-profit, helping people in every way we can. We don't have money to build. We have money to operate. Right. So when we get ready to refurbish, renew, build new, we're only able to do that because so many generous people in the community and around. We are supported by individuals from Arizona to Dallas to Colorado. And so we couldn't do it without them. And we're so thankful to have each and every one of them. Our newest project, I told you we added the Activity Center, chapel, offices, and beauty shop in 1993. How many years ago was that?
31 years ago. I did the math earlier in
the
episode.
You did the math.
Yeah.
So it's still the same. And it's getting very worn and frazzled.
Sure.
And so the board of directors voted last month to approve refurbishing that project. It's a big project. It's going to take us close to $500,000 to completely kind of gut that and refurbish and all new furniture. But it's a very important part of who we are. It's where they spend the day. The residents, we have all kinds of music. The fiddlers come every Friday. And, of course, their favorite is bingo. If you mess with anything on the calendar, it's, don't mess with bingo.
Yeah.
And the beauty shop, of course, that's very important to all the ladies. And it's dual function. It's a chapel, has movable walls, and it's a chapel on Sunday.
Do you guys get pedicures and manicures?
Sometimes, yes. Lots of manicures. Not as many pedicures, but we do have one lady who's very good with that.
Okay.
So just because you go to a nursing home doesn't mean that you're not going to be well taken care of, not just your nursing needs.
Yeah.
Have your feet and hands done, have your hair done. Have fun.
I personally really love a pedicure.
Yeah.
Like I don't,
I haven't talked to my husband into it yet.
You need to talk to your husband into it. So as a male, it is quite possibly the most amazing experience. Like, why do you want to bend over and cut your own toenails? It doesn't make any sense. They do such a good job and they massage your feet. So, Jody Knox's husband, if you're listening, go get a pedicure. It'll be worth it. All right. That was a weird sidetrack, but that's all right. So just the services and all the stuff that they give. So another thing that you were mentioning is you mentioned a lot of individuals and foundations that have been really critical in the capital improvements, right? That you guys are doing. But you also have to fund the day-to-day, which you guys obviously do pretty well. But is it ever enough, right? How can the community help is what I'm saying.
It comes in ebbs and flows. One of our most important services is skilled nursing. So in our nursing home, if you've had a 3-day hospital stay, you can come for rehab. So a lot of times you had a surgery and you're just not ready to go home, maybe a fracture, knee replacement, hip replacement, whatever, or maybe just a bad infection and you need some post-hospital care.
Right.
And Medicare is our best payer. For people who are there long-term, if they've exhausted their funds, Medicaid does a decent job. It doesn't pay well, but we get by on it. And then there's people that just need some help. And so we couldn't do that without our donors. But I think the thing I want people to know the most is, Medicare, once you turn 65 or if you're disabled, you have that, and it's a benefit you receive. And the Advantage plans we don't usually take. I know right now they're calling everybody this time of year and trying to get you to sign up for something different, but they're not really very good payers for us. So we like traditional Medicare. But what I really want people to know is the fun and the life that people still living in a nursing home. I went in one day and they were playing bowling and they've got, these little pool noodles set out for a lane and they are having so much fun. 2 or 3 days later, I hear a lot of noise coming from the activity center and I go by, what's going on in here? And they had this net up and they're playing volleyball from their wheelchairs and laughing and just having a great time. And, you think of nursing home as a place of last resort, a place to go and die, but that's not always the truth. Sometimes it depends on our attitudes and our desire and want to make new friends and get out and do and have fun. But they have a lot of fun. They make a lot of friendships. And those that are there for skilled nursing and ready to go back home, they miss some of those friends. I say, well, you can always come back and have lunch with us, So they enjoy life. And I don't want us to think that at the point we have to leave our home that it's of course it's scary, but there's life after that. And, sometimes being home and being isolated is lonely. And they love life and I love them. And I just love being with them. And I'm very proud of our staff. In 2020, COVID hit hard And we were in complete lockdown for a year and a half. But we became 5-star with CMS. CMS is Medicare, the federal government. They rate you like you rate hotels, but it's all on, not on your feedback. It's on actual measures, how well you staff, how many registered nurses you have, the quality measures which you provide to your residents, your survey, annual survey, all of that goes into that makeup. And so being 5-star is a huge, big deal in the federal world. And so we're very proud.
It's the Michelin star restaurant of nursing home care, I guess. I think it's a way to put it. How many 5-star organizations are there in the state of New Mexico? Do you know? Have you compared to try to see how you compete with the rest of the state?
There's only 2 or 3.
Yeah. And so I think
it's a hard thing to get, and it's hard to keep. But even 4-star in our industry is wonderful.
It's considered really good.
Yes.
So I just look back. I've lived in Carlsbad for just over 3 years now, and I just look at some of the nonprofit services that the city of Carlsbad has. And I lived in Albuquerque for a very long time as well, but I don't think that Albuquerque has the same level of commitment that the community of Carlsbad has, just from my perspective. Right? So you look at Lakeview Christian Home and all the great community members and the foundations that have donated towards that. You also look at Cart Farm, how that was started on a need, right? And then you've also got Lifehouse, which is just an incredible organization helping people that went down the wrong path at one point, right? And so those are just 3, and then the Carlsbad Community Foundation. Those are just 4 of the examples of what's happening in this community, the Boys and Girls Club, the way they're supported and stuff like that. So as somebody who is a lifelong resident of Carlsbad, where do you think that spirit comes from, that spirit of community? I feel like there's a lot of unique examples here that I don't see in other communities in New Mexico. So why do you think that is?
I think we're a special place. In our field, I think there are only 2 not-for-profit or independent nursing homes left. They've all been bought out by chains. And Carlsbad is fortunate that people always step up and help. And it's just like Lifehouse. We had taken over Lanson Homes in early 2020, and then COVID hit. And because we weren't allowed to admit residents for a long time, our numbers went down. We didn't need 2 facilities. And so we were very blessed to be able to help Lifehouse with that building. It's perfect for Carlsbad, and that they have grown so much, and I'm so proud of them.
Well, you guys are growing again now.
We are growing, and you have a really valid point. You don't move anywhere in America, in the United States, and have the same spirit Carlsbad has. And so we're really blessed as a community. One of the things that I appreciate about my bosses I've had in the past was they encouraged us to always be involved. So I've been on the chamber board for many years, and then I went on the Department of Development board. I've been on that for a long time, been a part of Rotary for a long time. So Lakeview's always encouraged us to be involved in the community and to give back. We can't just ask. We have to be a part of giving. And so we do try to do that as well. Also, I've been on the New Mexico Healthcare Board, which is a nursing home board in the state. And I've been on that since '89. And on a committee on the national board, which is AHCA, American Healthcare, for many years. And so our involvement is critical. When you're an independent facility, you have to have some place that you're getting all your information, your regulation, your how to position yourself to stay alive. And so that's been really important part of who we are and what we do, and trying to stay abreast of the changes and try to modernize. And so we're really fortunate to have a wonderful board of directors. They're all volunteer. They don't get paid one dime. They get a good meal once a month.
Yeah, there you go.
And our president is Alan Wood, owner of Denton Wood Funeral Home. He's been amazing, and I couldn't be more blessed.
I feel it. I mean, I certainly feel it. Lakeview Christian Home seems like a great option. And one more question for you. Do you know, just on the top of your head, how many patients you have at one time? I don't know if patients is the right word. How about
residents?
Residents, thank you very much.
So we serve about 450 people. So the nursing home, right now, because we're in a building phase, we had to tear down one of our wings. We are just at capacity at 82 right now. Our assisted living has 28 rooms. And then through home health and hospice, those numbers fluctuate, but another 100 people. And then our Riverbend houses, we have about 85 houses in Riverbend. The park houses that we picked up from Lanson, there's 37 of those independent houses. Right. And then our 2 villages is 66. And some of those are couples.
Right.
So add all that up, we serve close to 500 people, which is really, it's a big impact in the economy of Carlsbad.
Yeah, no, that's impressive. And that's a lot of people. Do you want to give Lakeview Christian Home a little bit of credit for Carlsbad being such an amazing age-friendly city?
I do. And, at one point, we were one of the top 5 employers in Carlsbad because that was before oil and gas got so big.
Right,
So we were one of the larger employers. We employ about 150 people right now. Carlsbad's been short of help for a long time, but I'm really proud to say the last 3 months, we have been completely staffed.
Oh, you're full staffed.
We are. And what a blessing. How many stores
How long has it been since that happened?
A very, very long time. And we've always had, even when we were short staffed, we had employees that step up and work whatever you needed. They've always put their job right up there at the top, which makes me, so proud of them. We have some amazing staff.
They're led by example.
Well, and you go to how many fast foods or whatever closed for the day because they didn't. So we're blessed to have so many good staff. And one of the plugs I want to give to is our therapy department. We have in-house therapy, which nursing homes don't get to have.
Physical therapy,
occupational therapy, speech therapy.
Oh, yeah.
We have a team of 7 people, and most of those are doctorate. And so we are very, very blessed to have such an amazing team. They've been with us for a long time. That's the other thing. I had a CNA that worked for me for over 50 years. That's a hard job, physically demanding. But we have a lot of employees that have been there just almost as long as I have, and I've been there 48 years. So I just think that speaks volume of the people we're able to hire, their hearts, how much they give and love. And they're there because they love the people. They're certainly not there because the job's easy.
Right. Well, it speaks volumes for the organization, right? It speaks volumes for Lakeview Christian Home because somebody can go, while still in high school, become a receptionist and then turn around and be the CEO in no time at all, right? Because you learned it, you lived it, and you grew up in that. It just speaks volumes for an organization that promotes from within of that nature. You can't bring somebody else from the outside that's going to have the breadth of knowledge that you have or your board or people that have dedicated their lives to the community as well. I think it's just summing it up that I think Carlsbad's really lucky to have a place like Lakeview Christian Home.
Well, we feel very blessed, and it's our blessing to take care of the people we do. They're just so much fun and so giving and loving, and I love my job. Everybody always says, "When are you going to retire?" And it's like, it's not on my brain.
When I have to move to that bed over there.
That's right. That's right.
So Jody Knox, the CEO of Lakeview Christian Home. Do you want to go ahead and give us the websites or any other pertinent information as we tag out here?
It's just boy, you got me off guard. LakeviewChristianHome.com, and we do have a Facebook page. You can always keep up with us if you're interested in helping us with any of our new projects. You can give through the Facebook, through our donor site, and always we love anyone who wants to put a check in the mail. But we couldn't do it without our donors, and we're just very, very blessed to have every one of them. And we're excited for our new building projects and always try to give the best we can to the people we serve.
Well, I can't wait to have you guys back on once these projects get underway. Any big news that you have at all, please feel free to make KCCC 930 AM one of your first places.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. We'll promote the heck out of you for free all the time.
Thank you
always,
so much.
Always. So, Jody Knox, CEO of Lakeview Christian Home, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You're listening to Community Forum on KCCC 930 AM, sponsored by Eddy County, honoring God, country, and family, thriving with industry since 1889.